Good evening, board, cabinet members, and the community. My name is Jonathan Payne. I'm the school counselor at Calaveras Hills High School. I want to allow each student to introduce themselves before they read the resolution.
Hi, I'm Raven Nash.
Hi, I'm Mariah Brady Good.
I'm Kaylia Thomas.
I'm Jaden Nixon. Resolution 2021.19. Recognizing and honoring January 18th, 2021 as Martin Luther King Day. Whereas Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born January 15th, 1929. And whereas in February of 1948, Dr. King was ordained in the Christian ministry at the age of 19 at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, and became assistant pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church. And whereas Dr. King, who attended segregated public schools in Georgia before earning a bachelor's of arts degree from Morehouse College, a bachelor of divinity degree from Corser Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania, and a doctorate of philosophy degree in theology from Boston University. Rose to premise as a civil rights activist committed to peace, justice, and equality.
The work of Dr. King created a basis of understanding and respect and helped communities and the United States as a whole to act cooperatively and courageously to restore tolerance, justice, and equality between people, whereas Dr. King dedicated his life to securing the fundamental principles of the United States of liberty and justice for all United States citizens. Dr. King was a leading civil rights advocate of his time, spearheading the civil rights movement in the United States during the 1950s and 1960s, and earning a worldwide recognition as an eloquent and articulate spokesperson for equality.
Whereas through his works and reliance on nonviolent protests, Dr. King was instrumental in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And whereas Dr. King led the Montgomery, Alabama bus boycott for 381 days to protest for the arrest of Rosa Parks and the segregation of the bus system of Montgomery. And on December 21st, 1956, the Supreme Court declared laws requiring segregation on bus unconstitutional. And whereas between 1957 and 1968, Dr. King traveled more than 6 million miles, spoke more than 2,500 times, and wrote 5 books and numerous articles supporting efforts around the country to end injustice and bring about social change and desegregation.
Whereas on August 28th, 1963, Dr. King led the March on Washington, D.C., the largest rally of the civil rights movement, during which, from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and before a crowd of more than 200,000 people, Dr. King delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, one of his most classic orientations in American history. And whereas Dr. King was a champion of nonviolence, fervently advocated nonviolent resistance as the strategy to end segregation and racial discrimination in America. And in 1964, at age 35, he became the youngest man to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition for his efforts. And whereas on the evening of April 4th, 1968, Dr. King was assassinated while standing on the balcony of his motel room in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was led to the sanitation workers in protest against low wages and intolerable working conditions. And
whereas in 1968, Representative John Conyers introduced legislation to establish the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. as a federal holiday. And whereas in 1983, Congress passed and President Ronald Reagan signed legislation creating the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which is now observed in more than 100 countries. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Milpitas Unified School District hereby proclaims January 18th, 2021 as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, encourages all educators to commemorate this day of remembrance with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs. passed and adopted by the Milpitas Unified School District Board of Education at a meeting held on January 12, 2021 by the following vote.